29-year-old Bobby McCoy and her 27-year-old husband Kenny remain in seventh heaven tonight, just 2 days after entering the record books by giving birth to septuplets.
In 1997, a woman in Iowa learned she was carrying 7 babies, a pregnancy so rare that doctors urged her to reduce the number. She refused, making a choice that shocked the nation and defied all medical odds. Remarkably, all 7 survived, and nearly 30 years later, they've grown into adults with unique personalities and lives. Their early months were fraught with challenges, but the family's courage, love, and resilience prevailed. This is a story of extraordinary strength, unbreakable bonds, and the lasting impact of one mother's daring decision. The unexpected discovery. Bobby McCaughey's journey to motherhood wasn't straightforward, marked by quiet hope and medical hurdles. Living in Carlisle, Iowa, a small town with a population of just a few thousand, she and her husband Kenny already had a daughter, Michaela, and dreamed of expanding their family. For years, though, pregnancy eluded them. Eventually, medical tests revealed a diagnosis that often dashes such hopes: polycystic ovary syndrome, which impaired Bobby's ability to ovulate properly. Determined to overcome this, Bobby began fertility treatments, including hormone injections designed to stimulate ovulation. The couple approached this with cautious optimism, fully aware of the risks of multiples, twins or perhaps triplets. But even then, nobody mentioned the possibility of 7 babies filling Bobby's womb. During an ultrasound appointment, what should have been routine quickly turned surreal. The technician's quiet counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, lingered and stretched far beyond expectations. Bobby's breath caught, her chest tightening with the weight of uncertainty as the number kept rising. 7 heartbeats. It was a revelation no one was ready for. The technician left the room to fetch a doctor who quietly confirmed the extraordinary news but offered no immediate guidance. That night at home, Bobby and Kenny sat face to face at their kitchen table, the reality sinking in without words. Neither could fully express what was happening. The silence was heavy, but full of unspoken questions. Within 2 days, the hospital called Bobby and Kenny back, signaling that their lives were about to change completely. What had begun as hope now carried a heavy, daunting weight, a pregnancy with risks few had ever faced before. This moment of discovery set the stage for a decision that would nudge up against medical convention and test the couple's faith and resolve like never before. Bobby's story from here would become a landmark in history. But at this point, the full scope of what was ahead was still kind of hidden in uncertainty. The anticipation and fear that gripped Bobby during those early days got even worse as this looming question kept circling in her mind. How could the human body carry a pregnancy so far beyond its natural design? Even though emotions swirled in private, the world around them started to whisper and watch, innocent enough, yet unaware of the profound thing about to unfold. The mystery of 7 lives growing inside a single woman wasn't just medical. It was deeply human, and it felt unreal. While the ultrasound showed the number, it didn't really show how the McCaughey family would navigate the storm ahead. The community, the hospital staff, and even the doctors themselves were not prepared for the sheer magnitude of this pregnancy. And as the news quietly spread, so did the first doubts and warnings about what was possible and what was not. Still, Bobby and Kenny, held steady by faith and love, would soon have to face a decision that very few people could imagine actually making. This extraordinary discovery was only the start, too. How Bobby responded to the challenges ahead would become the turning point in their family's story, and it would reshape the lives of 7 children who all started beating together inside that small Iowa hospital room. The weight of that decision and the profound courage it demanded set the stage for a life-altering moment that would both defy medical odds and capture the world's attention. The life-altering decision. Bobby McCaughey's pregnancy with septuplets was a medical marvel, but it quickly became a high-stakes race against overwhelming odds. At just 3 months along, a small beige conference room at Iowa Methodist Hospital became the setting for a meeting that would shape the future of 7 lives. Sitting across from 3 specialists, Bobby and Kenny were faced with stark realities no parent ever wishes to hear. The lead doctor gently explained how a woman's body is designed to carry 1 baby. Sometimes 2, rarely 3, but 7? The sheer physical toll on Bobby's heart, lungs, kidneys, and blood pressure would be immense, putting her life and the baby's at serious risk. The likelihood that all 7 would survive birth was slim. Many, if not most, would perish or face lifelong complications. The grim prognosis was clear, but the doctor's words went beyond caution. They suggested a solution: selective reduction. Selective reduction, a procedure to terminate some fetuses, was presented as the responsible and medically supported choice, designed to increase the survival chances of the remaining babies and protect Bobby's health. The recommendation was to reduce the pregnancy to 2 or 3 fetuses at most. Terms like realistic, manageable, and compassionate filled the room as the doctors carefully outlined the procedure and its timing. Bobby didn't respond immediately. She sat quietly, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Kenny squeezed her hand, a small anchor amid overwhelming uncertainty. The notion of choosing which of her babies might survive was unthinkable. Her mind raced, not just with medical facts, but with faith, love, and the potential consequences for her family. After a pause that stretched across the room, Bobby uttered this simple but monumental word: no. She refused to scale down the pregnancy. The room kind of fell into stunned silence, like everybody forgot how to breathe. The doctors tried to explain the risks again, slower this time, stressing the possibility Bobby could lose all her babies, even her own life. Still, Bobby's resolve did not really budge. She looked at Kenny. He nodded in support, and she said no once more, like it was the only truth in the air. Her refusal was grounded in a deeply held belief in family, faith, and the hope to raise her children as normally as possible. It was a decision that ran straight into the medical consensus and caused opinions to split across the country. Some people saw it as a gesture of courage and inner conviction. Others called it reckless. But for Bobby, it was about love and the refusal to let fate write her family's story instead. Her choice became that turning point where a private pregnancy turned into a public narrative. The world watched with this messy blend of admiration, skepticism, and concern as Bobby prepared to carry 7 lives with basically everything against her. It was a decision that would test medicine, morality, and human endurance all at once. Bobby's determination set the stage for experiences no one had prepared her for, months that would stretch the limits of her body and spirit as she faced the incredible challenge of carrying septuplets to birth. The pregnancy challenges. Carrying 7 babies was a battle from the very start, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Bobby's final 4 months of pregnancy were marked by strict bed rest and constant monitoring. Even standing for a few minutes left her breathless. Rolling over required assistance. Each day was a painstaking effort to nurture life while managing her own body's limits, carrying a burden equivalent to a full-term single baby multiplied 5 times. Her weight surged by nearly 70 pounds as her body expanded beyond belief to accommodate 7 tiny lives. Doctors warned of dangers at every turn: high blood pressure, stroke, hemorrhage, all looming threats that haunted Bobby's days and nights. Yet through every ultrasound and checkup, the babies continued to grow, defying the projections of doctors who expected bad news. The emotional toll was immense. Bobby often lay in silence, feeling 7 distinct sets of kicks and movements, 7 separate rhythms pulsing inside her all at once. The sensation was as amazing as it was overwhelming. There was no guidebook, no community of other mothers carrying septuplets, no precedent to draw from. Bobby was truly the first. Support came from places that nobody really expected. Volunteers from her church and nearby community organized shifts to care for her, like a quiet kind of choreography, offering companionship, help, and this steady sense of hope. They brought water and helped her sit up, and somehow made sure she never felt alone, not even in the long hours. This web of kindness really highlighted how a community can carry part of the load when Bobby's body couldn't do it by itself anymore. Even with the physical strain, Bobby's spirit stayed firm. The family's faith and determination kept pushing them through each obstacle, shaking off despair even when days felt the hardest. The pregnancy, though it was risky, turned into a kind of proof of staying power, endurance, hope, and the strength that love gives. As time went on, the world around the McCaughey family started paying attention more and more. The story of this unusual pregnancy spread, and it brought on debates, prayers, and nonstop attention. Still, inside the home, everything circled one clear aim: sustaining life. Nobody could say what would happen next, how the babies would arrive, or if they all would make it. But Bobby's bravery, in the middle of all that uncertainty, was setting something in place that would inspire people and change lives long term. The anticipation of birth grew, each day bringing them closer to a delivery that would rewrite history. 7 lives, born against all odds, ready to face the world together, the historic birth. November 19, 1997, became a day forever etched in history. At Iowa Methodist Medical Center, one wing was transformed into a carefully prepared stage for a delivery no one had ever seen before. Over 40 doctors, nurses, and neonatal specialists stood ready, each assigned to one of the 7 babies. Incubators lined up, humming softly, awaiting tiny lives that had already defied medical expectations. The tension in the room was immense. News vans crowded outside, international media had arrived, and the world watched what many called a medical miracle. The delivery itself lasted less than 7 minutes. Each baby was immediately handed to waiting teams. Weights ranged from just over 2 pounds to just under 3, so small that one could fit in the palm of a hand. Then came the cries. 7 distinct cries filled the room in quick succession. Exhausted from surgery, Bobby lay on the operating table, listening intently. Kenny stood silently beside her, overwhelmed, sharing a moment of awe and relief as those tiny beats became real voices. The real challenge started right away. The babies got rushed to neonatal intensive care, each one placed in a transparent incubator. Around it were monitors, tubes, a ventilator, and feeding pumps. Nurses worked non-stop, moving from one fragile life to the next, responding to every alarm as if it were personal. Bobby couldn't really hold them at first, but each night she pressed her hand to the glass and tried to reach something. Not just a barrier, she felt a connection, a kind of pull, but it wouldn't let itself be touched. It began with tiny Alexis, barely 2 pounds, and already acting as if she meant it. The premature birth left effects that didn't simply fade. Alexis and Nathan were later diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and some of the others dealt with eyesight troubles or digestive issues. At the beginning, breathing on their own was hard too, and not the learning kind of hard, more like a daily negotiation. Every single day turned into a struggle with hope, science, and a stubborn kind of courage that wouldn't quit. Outside the hospital, everything blew up into nationwide attention. Letters came in from strangers, donations kept arriving, and even President Bill Clinton phoned to offer congratulations to the family. Even with the spotlight, Bobby and Kenny stayed realistic, steady. They stayed with the babies, not the noise. Weeks later, the septuplets finally came home, and then another hurdle showed up. 7 little toddlers at once is a whole different world. It's loud and it's messy, and it never really slows down. The birth made the headlines, sure, but the real account about resilience, love, and determination was only starting to unfold. No matter how daunting the neonatal care had been, the moment they stepped through their front door marked an entirely new chapter. One defined not by medical miracles, but by the relentlessness of daily life, growing up. Septuplets. Raising septuplets is kind of a challenge of unimaginable scale and complexity, and for Bobby and Kenny, it didn't slowly build up. It just became a whirlwind, fast, like diapers, bottles, and those sleepless nights that never really fully end. The practical stuff hit hard too, 40 diapers each day, over 40 bottles, and a feeding routine so intricate it was color-coded by baby and taped right to the refrigerator, as if that was gonna make it all feel manageable. Sleep was split into small pieces, often just 20-minute stretches. Exhaustion was basically the steady background noise. Even with all that overwhelming routine, the small town of Carlisle showed up with an extraordinary kindness. People from their church and community volunteered in rotating shifts to help with feeding, cleaning, and cuddle time, so Bobby could grab a few precious moments to rest, even if it was only for a while. And at their busiest, nearly 40 volunteers turned up and cycled through the house each week, strangers who somehow felt like family, all tied together by one shared commitment to support this remarkable group. The McCaughey's home became known affectionately as the house that love built. As their needs grew, a local builder constructed a brand new house with extra bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, and a basement large enough to line up 7 cribs side by side. It was a fitting sanctuary for a family unlike any other. Bobby and Kenny were clear about one thing. They refused to let their children grow up with the idea that they were special or entitled because of their fame. The septuplets ate simple meals at the kitchen table, did chores, attended public schools, shared rooms and clothes, and faced consequences just like any other kids. Behind closed doors, they were simply children growing up together. But outside their home, fame was kinda unavoidable. Annual magazine spreads, television specials on each birthday, and unwanted attention in public spaces constantly reminded the septuplets that their lives were a public fascination. Still, through all of it, they tried to grow a tight bond, not only as siblings, but as people who understood each other on a level most others never quite reach. They had inside jokes, a private way of talking, and this almost uncomfortable knack for sensing when someone was off before anyone else noticed. They moved through each school stage together, often being recognized as the miracle babies, even though what they really wanted was to be seen as themselves, not as some headline or a story. Graduation from Carlisle High School in 2016 felt like both triumph and a little heartbreak. The auditorium was packed, family, friends, neighbors, reporters too, who had watched their journey for nearly 2 decades. One by one, the septuplets walked the stage. Some were pushing through major physical hurdles, like Alexis and Nathan, who both lived with cerebral palsy. That day didn't just mean academic success. It also began a new chapter, where their paths would split into 7 distinct lives. The shared childhood was the real base, impossible to recreate, deeply formative, and crowded with moments that no one else could ever fully understand. The bonds forged through early hardships would provide strength as they stepped into the wider world, an intricate tapestry of connection and independence woven by 7 unmistakably resilient lives. Lives today and legacy. Nearly 30 years after their historic birth, the McCaughey septuplets have grown into adults with remarkable and diverse lives. Brandon James chose service, joining the United States Army after high school and rising to sergeant by 2022. Married to Alana, he welcomed his first child, giving Bobby and Kenny their first grandchild. Kenneth Robert Jr., known as Kenny, found his calling in woodworking, Now a skilled cabinet maker in central Iowa, he and his wife Cynthia embrace a quiet life, a sharp contrast to the chaos of their childhood. He has spoken about adjusting to calm after growing up with 6 siblings. 4 septuplets, Natalie Sue, Kelsey Ann, Nathan Roy, and Joel Stephen, attended Hannibal LaGrange University on scholarships, gaining independence while supporting one another. Today, they pursue careers in education, ministry, and healthcare, with some married and others exploring life's possibilities. Despite their separate paths, they remain closely connected through daily communication and regular reunions. Alexis May, diagnosed with cerebral palsy, somehow managed to defy expectations to live on her own and quietly advocate for people with disabilities. The once shy girl in an incubator now shows up as this real inspiration to countless others because her resilience and courage just don't quit. Her older sister Michaela was already in the family before the septuplets arrived, and she went on to build her own little world too, adding more love to the whole clan. Between Michaela's kids and Brandon's daughter, Bobby and Kenny soak up the grandparent role like it's a daily gift. Even with all that fame, the septuplets were raised with pretty normal routines: cereal for breakfast, chores, school, and yes, the occasional grounding. It sounds simple, but it grounded them and helped them become self-aware, steady adults. They grew up right beside one another, so their bond is still unbreakable. They understand each other almost intuitively, and they share each milestone, each struggle, too, like it's the most natural thing in the world. The McCaughey septuplets' journey from fragile newborns to accomplished adults is a powerful story of courage, resilience, and love. Bobby's historic choice shaped lives that continue to inspire. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more incredible true stories delivered every week. Stay curious, stay kind, and be sure to check out the next video playing on your screen. It's another amazing story you won't want to miss.